Hello and good afternoon. If you're watching this video, then unfortunately my internet and travel arrangements did not allow me to participate live in the second Edinburgh Byzantine Book Festival. That being said, it is my pleasure to talk about the book we'll hear about over the next 20 minutes or so. First of all, my name is Zachary Chitwood. I am a lecturer in Byzantine Studies at the Johannes Gutenberg University of Mainz in Germany. And I share something in common with the book I'm about to present, in that I've also written some studies on Byzantine law. Before we begin, just a reminder that to mute your microphones, and also to post questions in the Q&A box. We will not be accepting live questions from participants. So, on to the book. The book that I'm presenting is called A Sourcebook on Byzantine Law, Illustrating Byzantine Law through the Sources, published with Brill last year, 2022. And the two authors are Daphne Penna and Roos Meijering. And I'll begin with Daphne Penna. Daphne Penna is currently an assistant professor, university lecturer, if you will, specializing in Byzantine law at the Department of Legal History at the University of Groningen. Before completing her dissertation on the Byzantine imperial acts to Venice, Pisa, and Genoa, 10 to 12th centuries, a comparative legal study in 2012, the year she both defended her dissertation and published it at the same time, which, from what I understand, is common practice in the Netherlands. She had studied legal history at the University of Athens. She has published numerous articles on various aspects of Byzantine law, including on the Scholias Civica, and among other things, hedge funds in Byzantium, which I think is a very interesting subject, and also a number of articles about environmental law, which is a very hot topic right now, more generally. Roos Meijering is now retired, but before her retirement, she also served as an assistant professor at the University of Groningen in the legal history department, like Daphne Penna does currently. She published her dissertation in 1987 on literary and rhetorical theories in Greek scholia, and she co-authored a book on the legal scholar Anatolius with Jan Loken, so in the year 1999. So let me talk briefly about the book. This is a book that grew out of teaching. It grew out of a seminar on Byzantine law that Roos and Daphne taught together at the University of Groningen, and I think this didactic approach, the material shows throughout the book. It is an extremely useful, in my opinion, introduction to a quite arcane subject, Byzantine law, and it's chronologically organized, so beginning in the Justinianic period and going all the way to the last centuries of Byzantium. It has a lot of translations of passages from normative Byzantine legal sources, so law books, also things like Scholias to the Basilica. These things are extremely hard to translate, and you get a good, I think, idea of the range of Byzantine legal sources that are out there. So it is my pleasure to open the discussion on this very useful work, which I believe will become the standard textbook, if you will, for the study of Byzantine law. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the book presentation discussion.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
But you can't see me. Huh?
Yes, we can see you, but
I don't know why. Nou ja. I think I will begin, Petros, yeah?
Yes, feel free.
Yeah. So I would like to thank Zachary Chitwood for his for this video, for the introduction and the kind words. I just wanted to add, because I know that Zachary did this in haste as traveling, that Roos Meijering is also the co-editor of the critical edition of the paraphrase of Theophilus, the paraphrase of the Institutes. And in fact, as Jan Lekin notes in that preface, Roos is has done most of the work for this critical edition. Okay. Now, dear colleagues, when it comes to Byzantine legal sources, the Greek book by Spyros Troianos, Οι πηγές του Βυζαντινού Δικαίου, remains indispensable. This book was translated into Italian in 2015 by Pierangelo Buongiorno, and 2 years later, in 2017, Dita Simon and Silvia Neye translated it into German and brought its bibliographical references and indexes up to date. Moreover, despite its age, the book Historia Juris Greco-Romani Delineatio about Byzantine legal sources written in French by Jan Lekin and Nico van der Waal remains useful. So what's the point now for this book? Because a student of Byzantine law has sufficient and excellent material that will help him or her to learn about and investigate the sources of Byzantine law. So what is the point of our present book? To begin with, as Zachary mentioned, our book derives from the classroom. It was born from our teaching experience. After the abolition of the study of Byzantinology in Groningen, the course on Byzantine law continued to be offered at our department. In 1990, Roos Meijering had taken over teaching it from Jan Lekin. From the year 2007, Meijering and I started teaching the course together, and following the retirement of Meijering in 2017, I have been teaching it on my own, being assisted from time to time by my two colleagues, Frits Brandsma and Tom van Bochoff. The core of the present book is based on the so-called Sourcebook that Meijering and I have used in class all these years. This Sourcebook consisted of fragments of sources of Byzantine law, which Meijering had selected and translated throughout the years, and in a later stage, a few sources were also added by myself. For many years now, I had been thinking of using this source book as a core of a book, and in the year 2020, when the lives of all of us changed because of the pandemic, I decided that it was high time to begin this project, and Meijering once again helped me throughout this process. Using Meijering's selection of Greek sources as a base, I started writing a theoretical part and introduction to accompany these texts, these sources, which would provide something like a basic background to help the reader understand the source under discussion and its relationship to other Byzantine sources. In some cases, I expanded the text, I added sources, and the result is the book that you see now, that we present today. Our book is not intended to provide a thorough discussion on the sources of Byzantine law, nor is it a textbook about Byzantine law in general. Rather, the purpose of this book is to explain and illustrate Byzantine law through some basic legal sources, and it provides a selection of sources drawn from across the timeline of Byzantine law. So it is by no means exhaustive. And here, talking about timeline, on the slide you can see the timeline. So we begin with the sources before the time of Justinian, and we end at 1453. So we do not address sources after 1453. The book is divided into 6 chapters, and the reader will notice that some chapters are more lengthier than others. For example, the second chapter, which is about Justinian, and in the next slide you could see the subsections of that chapter, is is a lengthy chapter. As you know, Justinianic legislation forms the backbone of most later Byzantine legislation. So here we deal with the legislation of Justinian, with the antecessorian teaching during the time of Justinian. The antecessors were the law professors at the time of Justinian, so teaching law in the time of Justinian, and other writings. And in fact, we offer here detailed examples. I have a few on the slide of this teaching. Here you see a table. This is how we illustrate the sources. In this table, you see in Greek a text deriving from Thaleleos, one of these law professors in the 6th century, teaching here part of the Codex. You can see the English translation on the right, and on the left, we highlight some elements of this teaching, this antecessorian teaching. So the idea is, before this, of course, you have a theoretical part of the antecessorial teaching, and then you have fragments of sources. Here's a fragment from Stephanus, another antecessor of this period, and another form of teaching, the erotapokrisis, a question and answer. So you have an idea how it looks like. The last chapter I'd like to emphasize on this is a very, very brief selection of Byzantine sources of canon law. And the reader will notice that a big part of the book deals with research that is being done in Groningen, namely the Basilica text and scholia. The text of the Basilica, divided into 60 books, is the Greek version of the mainly Latin Corpus Juris Civilis issued in the 6th century by Emperor Justinian. The Basilica text and scholia together are our richest source of knowledge of Byzantine law. The last critical edition of the Basilica cum scholiis, which is also the most accurate edition, was made in Groningen. And in our book, we discuss and explain all kinds of issues that are related to the Basilica text and scholia, but also to the Groningen Basilica edition. Here's an example. This is an example of, here we explain the layout of a page, how a page looks like in the Basilica edition, what derives from what. Here we explain how to cite a Basilica scholian and why this is the best way to do it. Here we explain the difference between old and new Basilica scholia, and I hope you understand, here's the theory, and in the following pages you see fragments of old and new Basilica scholia with their translation. Here we explain how the editors of the Groningen Basilica edition dealt with problems of reconstructing the text for a text that was lost. So there are Basilica books that are lost. How did they deal with this problem? What did they use and how? And the list goes on. In some cases, we also provide tables, features, schematic approaches that hopefully help the reader to better understand the material, the source, the nature, and the relationship to other sources as well. As far as the language is concerned, we have opted for simple language, and at many points the reader will also notice some patterns of classroom teaching, a bit of antecessorian teaching, to use here a Byzantine term. For example, sometimes we provide some theory in advance, a protheoria, or a legal commentary, or we point out the special characteristics of a source that should help the reader hopefully better understand the material. We also decided not to include many footnotes in the text. You'll find very few footnotes, but to add relevant select bibliographies after every section, actually after every chapter, and sometimes a section if the section is rather long. At the final stage of this book, we also had considerable help from Bernard Stolte and Marius Tandalos, and we'd like to thank both of them for this. I also want to note that the layout of this book was rather difficult. You have Greek, Latin, English translation, tables, our comments, and I'd like to thank Brill for taking the time to address these issues of the layout, and especially Kate Hammond, who took our requests seriously. Our book is dedicated to the memory of Jan Lukien, who passed away during the very last phase of this book last June in Groningen. Lukien was professor of Roman law at the University of Groningen from 1977 until 2009, and will always be remembered as the real soul, the psyche, as we say in Greek, of the Groningen Legal History Department. To sum up, why is this book special? Number one, it's the first book in English providing a wide range of Byzantine legal sources. It is written in a simple language. It's not just for experts, and for all sources, English translations are provided next to the original Greek and Latin text. Tables and other features help the reader in understanding the material. In short, this book is a tool that can help a student of Byzantine law or anyone who's interested in Byzantine law to find out what some of the sources actually look like and provide information about their basic background. What is also special about this book is that it connects to the long tradition of education and research into Byzantine law in Groningen. Teaching and research in Byzantine law is something that we still try to do here. We thought that it would have been a pity not to use this material that we have been collecting and teaching all these years and to put down in writing our lectures and experience. So this book encapsulates the teaching of Byzantine law in Groningen for more than 33 years. As I write in the preface of this book, teaching the seminar of Byzantine law these years together with Roos Meijering has always been a highlight of the academic year and my favorite course to teach, still is. I know that Roos despises thinking notes in academia and she rather prefers to work in her garden, as any sensible person would do. By the way, this love for nature by Roos explains why we have a lot of fragments about plants, trees, and other nature in our book. So despite this modesty of Roos, I would like to thank her for all the help in these years and the fun we had in teaching this course for the select few. We hope that the volume offers a clear yet detailed primer to Byzantine law, its sources and its significance, and we sincerely hope that the book will raise interest in Byzantine law. And if you are wondering what on earth is that monkey chair doing there and how is it related to Byzantine law in Groningen, well, I'm afraid that this can be the subject of another talk. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you, Petros, for, being the coordinator here.